I've spoken about this so many times over the years. I guess you should all know it by heart now. So instead of me telling you what prosperity is, I'm going to ask you, what is prosperity? Can somebody tell me?
Abundance.
Abundance, yes. What else?
A state of mind.
Peace of mind?
No, a state.
Yes.
State of mind.
State of mind. It all goes with prosperity, doesn't it? So we know then that prosperity is not just about money and possessions. It's also about developing a prosperous mindset, which means expecting the best at all times, being happy in your own skin, getting along well with family, friends and colleagues, serving others in a position that we enjoy, expanding the mind to embrace new, more positive ideas, and perceiving an ever-increasing concept of spiritual truth. And living that truth. This is very important. When we have this mindset, we can live contentedly, knowing that God's infinite supply of material and spiritual substance will forever flow into our lives and take form for our benefit. It is an established consciousness of our own God-ordained good. Charles Fillmore tells us to lay hold of God's willingness to give. And as we heard in his quote this morning, the more conscious you become of the presence of the living substance, the more it will manifest for you, and the richer will be the common good of all, not just yourself, but of all. So when we prosper, it adds to the prosperity of everybody on the planet. It all spreads out. So how do we acquire this prosperity mindset? First, we must develop faith and belief. Jesus, our master teacher, always emphasised the need for faith, together with the need to always believe. And he said in so many different ways, "Go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole. Be not afraid, only believe. And all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive." So the more we can believe, the more the prospering power works for us. And so as we enter into our prayer life, and as we see our prayers being answered, so we build up our faith-filled belief. Every demonstration of God's hand moving through our circumstances builds up more faith and more belief, until we are convinced that an invisible power, God's divine intelligence, is working for us at all times. It never ceases. Secondly, along with faith and belief, we need to live with generosity. We need to give. Cast your bread upon the waters, and it will return multiplied. And of course, we've read that now in the Unity magazine as saying, "Cast your bread upon the waters, and it shall return buttered." Which illustrates the truth that what we give out comes back multiplied. And we can prove this saying for ourselves when we drop our thoughts of lack and limitation and realise that actually we are born to be rich. Yes, believe it, we are born to be rich. Our Creator God wills us to live richly, love richly, and have all our needs met, and to prosper in all that we do. So to invoke the law of circulation, we need to think of ourselves as a prosperity exchange, with God as our senior partner, welcoming the continual supply of material and spiritual substance, and then sharing it with others. Every time we give, we activate the law of circulation to bring wealth into our lives. our Creator God, that infinite loving Spirit which expresses through all of us and throughout all creation, gave us life freely and wills only good for us. So we are here in this world through God's grace. And God's grace is God's loving givingness. So we have inherited this power to express that loving givingness in all that we do. So we are born to love, and we are born to give of ourselves and our spiritual possessions freely and with love. And when we do this, we invoke the law of giving and receiving, and we discover the truth of the saying, ordered and consistent giving leads to ordered and consistent receiving. And I think I first learned that many, many years ago from Lionel Fifield, who was a wonderful speaker from the Relaxation Centre up in Brisbane. And I've said this many times over the years, so we must be aware, though, of how we give. Do we give resentfully out of a sense of duty? Or do we give freely, with a glad heart, knowing that God's substance is limitless? And there's always plenty more to flow into our prosperity exchange. Charles Fillmore, in his book Prosperity, writes, and I quote, "The spiritual-minded man who gives because he loves to give is thrown more completely into the inevitable operation of the law. He is inevitably enriched, and he cannot escape it." Isn't that a marvellous thought? Inevitably enriched, and you can't escape it if you give with love. And St. Paul told the Corinthians, God loveth a cheerful giver. So it is the act of giving that ensures we prosper. We're inclined to think that prosperity is something that has to be attained from outside us. We have to somehow draw it in, an elusive richness which must be drawn. But this isn't so. Richness works from the inside out. God's prospering power indwells us, and every time we give, we activate this mighty prospering power. If we are feeling a sense of limitation or neediness, a sense of deprivation, that tight feeling, oh, there's not enough to go around, then we've not recognised God's prospering power within our very own selves. If we are praying from that desperate feeling of, oh, I have not, I want, I need, oh, please, God, give it to me, please, please, then we are energising that very lack, that very neediness. We are giving it power, and we are keeping the lack in our experience. And we will always have a sense of deprivation. When we switch our focus to, oh, I give thanks that I have all I need and plenty more of my God-ordained good, pouring always into my life, then our good manifests. And we know that God has already given us every good thing, and there's no end to God's infinite good. Then our good must manifest. It is inevitable. It is our own thoughts of withholding from others or giving to others that activate the spiritual laws to bring us lack or plenty. So there is truth in the saying, change your thinking, change your life. You know, it helps to cultivate an attitude of gratitude for the life we've been given and for all our many blessings. Charles Fillmore tells us to bless our substance as it comes in and bless it as it goes out. To praise and bless activates the law of increase, and so our blessings must multiply. And it helps to bless those who have rendered service to us. We can get resentful when the bills start rolling in. We flick on the light switch without giving thought to all the workers it takes to bring us electric light. We grumble at water and telephone bills without thinking of all those working to bring those services to us. It may seem laughable, but we should actually bless those bills as they come in and bless them as we pay them. And I well remember the many years ago when I first wrote, "with blessings," on my cheque as I paid a bill. And then I wondered at my change of attitude. Instead of feeling deprived, I felt wonderful. I felt rich in knowing that God's source of supply would never end. It would always be there. You know, I was brought up to think that it was holy to be poor, holy to suffer, and that somehow it was terribly sinful to be wealthy. Oh, we didn't like that at all. After all, doesn't the Bible tell us that money is the root of all evil? But St. Paul, in writing to Timothy, didn't say that at all. He said the love of money is the root of all evil. And when we see that some people are willing to do for money, we realise that St. Paul was right. You know, when I started work, I had no idea how to handle money. My mother had emphasised that I must not borrow. If I borrow money, that would place me in a servitude to the lender, so I must never borrow. And I must always pay my bills on time. She stressed paying my bills always on time. So I was focused on paying bills. Oh, I must pay my bills, I must pay my bills. And as we attract that which our thoughts are focused upon, I just attracted more and more bills. I was always broke. I could never remain solvent from one payday until the next. There was always too much of the week left at the end of my money. Then a new girl started work in the office, and she sat at the desk in front of me. And every time she received her pay envelope, she went straight to the bank and deposited a percentage of her pay in her account. I was intrigued by this. I always banked last, and by the time I paid everything, there was never anything over to put in the bank. And when I queried her about it, she said, "My dear, always bank first, and the bills will look after themselves." So I tried banking first, and it worked. And at last I had money in the bank. My days of being continually broke were over. I was learning to save. Wonderful feeling. Many years later, when I joined a traditional church group, I learned about tithing. And in my cynical ignorance, I decided that tithing was just a ploy to enrich the church. And I would have no part of that. Oh no, I was far too smart to be taken in by tithing. I would not fall for that false belief. I had no idea then that tithing was to benefit me. I had no idea of that. Tithing was to activate the law of circulation in my own life, to actually bring prosperity to me by a continual flow of God's supply, and to keep it flowing into all my affairs. Years later, when I discovered New Thought, I rediscovered tithing, and I found that this time, I really wanted to give. To me, New Thought was the truth that I wanted to see shared with everybody. I believed in it so much. And isn't it amazing when you find something or someone you love, you just want to give. And so I tithe gladly, because I believed wholeheartedly in all the truth principles I was being taught. And as I tested out the truth principles, they worked. And I could see demonstrations. And I thought, this is an amazing philosophy. I've been to church for years and years, never had any demonstrations of anything. But New Thought, unity, Science of Mind, Divine Science, all these organisations, they brought demonstrations. I found that the power of God in the universe responded to my faith and belief. And when we find this responsive power, it unlocks our own indwelling givingness, and we give freely and with love. And we don't give with any thought of getting any return, but it is the immutable spiritual law. When we give with love, we must receive. As Charles Fillmore says, it's inevitable. We can't escape it. So at first I gave spasmodically, so I had spasmodic results. And then I saw a pattern entering into it. Every time I gave willingly, Good flowed into my life, and that is when I learned the truth of, as I said before, ordered and consistent giving ensures ordered and consistent receiving. So I tried tithing consistently, and it works so well that I've tithed ever since. And I can't imagine my life without tithing. It always brings good results. You know, we first hear about tithing in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, when Abram, before God renamed him Abraham because of his abiding faith, well, Abram received a blessing from Melchizedek, king of Salem and priest of the Most High God. In return for the blessing, Abram gave Melchizedek tithes from all he possessed. Note, Abraham did not dither about net or gross or where the money was coming from. He gave from all he possessed. And as you go through the Bible to all the tithers, Jacob and so on, they gave from their all. It is thought that tithing may have been established by the ancients long before biblical times. So it is a truth that has endured down through the ages, and it works. So how do we tithe? How do we work the law of increase? We tithe first to the source of our spiritual nourishment. It may be our church, our spiritual mentor, our spiritual group, or any institution that is spreading the word of God, because we must always put God first. Jesus, our master teacher, tells us, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." So first we seek God and his righteousness. Some people ignore the righteousness bit. They don't want to know about that. They don't want to work on themselves to refine their own character so that they are honest in all their dealings. Too much hard work. But this is a very important law of prosperity, which is not often mentioned in motivational talks. We must act with integrity at all times. We cannot expect the truth principles to work for us if we are acting from untruth. So it takes self-analysis and self-culture to bring us into alignment with God's truth. We must always endeavour to live with integrity. So we tithe to God first. Secondly, we must tithe to ourselves. We cannot leave ourselves out of the equation. We are individualised expressions of God. So we must honour our own inherent divinity. If we don't look after ourselves, then how can we help others? As we tithe to ourselves, we realise there is a big difference between saved money and hoarded money. If we hoard money with the idea that there's not enough to go around, so we must grab as much as we can for ourselves before it all runs out, then we are not serving God. We are negating God and serving mammon. The love of money has got us in its grip, and we are in danger of our good being taken from us when we least expect it. How many times have we seen the greedy businessman lose everything overnight because he hasn't shared his good with others? It happens all the time. Saved money is different. When we save money for good purpose, when we're willing to share our good with others, when we tithe to God, the source of our being, then we have the prosperity consciousness. We realise that money is God in action. Money is the symbol for all the good we can do with it. The more we give, the more we'll keep flowing into our prosperity exchange. So God first, ourselves second, and thirdly we give to charity, pay our bills and purchase life's necessity. But in our giving, we keep quiet about it. We keep it a secret to ourselves. Jesus tells us in the Gospel of Matthew, "But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret. And thy Father, which seeth in secret, himself shall reward thee openly." So let us look at the qualities we must have for the law of prosperity to work for us. I think you've seen it in the newsletter, the seven requirements of prosperity. 1, the prosperous mindset, knowing that God has already given us every good thing, and there's no limit to the good flowing into our lives. 2, faith and belief. The more we see demonstrations of God's hand working through our circumstances, the more we build our faith-filled belief. 3 is prayer life. As we build our prayer life and commune with God in all our affairs, we are led by the still, small voice, which becomes stronger every day. 4 is the prosperity exchange, seeing ourselves as a prosperity exchange with God as our senior partner. Abundance flowing in for our good, and then a portion flowing out, always to be shared with others. Givingness, number 5. Give freely and with love, because a very important point is we can have as much as we are willing to give, and then more. We read in the Gospel of Mark, with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you, and unto you that hear, more shall be given. 6 is praise and bless. Charles Fillmore tells us to praise and bless our purse and our substance as it comes in and goes out. That which we praise and bless works the law of increase, and so our abundance increases. So let us turn from all the external avenues that we are putting our faith in and see God only, as our source of supply, and then the externals will all fall into divine order. And of course the last one, number 7, is integrity, the most important requirement. Align ourselves with God's truth by living with honesty and integrity at all time in all our dealings. So let us have faith and believe wholeheartedly that God is our only source of supply. Praise and bless that supply. Pray without ceasing and bless all whom we meet. Give generously and with a glad heart. Live with integrity and love God with all our heart and mind and soul, and know that all that the Father hath is ours. I'll close with the blessing from 3 John. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. God bless us all. Yeah.